Hi, my name's Christine and these are my Mindful Meanderings. This one was actually spurred by a conversation I had with a friend of mine. We have both experienced divorce and loss of a relationship. I've since remarried and my friend is in a relationship. I don't know how serious it is, but he made an interesting couple of comments which got me thinking. When you're in a married relationship, or a very long-term relationship for that matter, there are certain things about that relationship where you start to rely on the other person, and there's this cohabitation, and sometimes there's this expectation of needing one another. My friend and the lady he's seeing, they live separately. She is a single mum and she is the full-time carer for her son. And so she obviously needs to be the breadwinner in her home, and she needs to be the one who her son can look to for everything. And so I found it really interesting when he told me that she didn't need him. The way that he said it sounded to me as if he was quite hurt by the idea that she didn't need him. But I prodded and I said, well, rather than thinking of it from the perspective of she doesn't need you, maybe think of it from the perspective that she is choosing to be with you because she doesn't need to rely on you for anything else. She wants to spend time with you. She wants to be with you. I walked away from that conversation and I thought, wow, that's such an interesting perspective, that someone might need to be in a relationship with somebody else for whatever reason. I get that as we grow older, there are certain needs that we have that have to be dealt with. I mean, if somebody in a relationship were to fall ill, you certainly need to have someone to help you through those challenges, depending on obviously the level of help required. But I mean, that doesn't need to be in the relationship of your long-term partner or spouse. That could certainly be assistance from someone who specializes in the area of support that you need. I think when it comes to relationships, if we're relying on our partners financially, as an example, that can put some strain on the relationship. I know many years ago, it wasn't uncommon for the man to be the breadwinner and the woman to stay at home. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that if the two people agree that that's what they'd like to do, especially in today's era. But I find it hard to believe that would actually be a reasonable request these days. I mean, the cost of living, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, is pretty high. I mean, when I moved to Melbourne in 2015, the rent was $350 a week. Now, I will put a caveat on that. We had a very good rental agreement. And so that for me would have been okay if I was a single income earner, because it would only have been just over a third of my income. That's reasonable from that perspective. But now we're talking 2024, nearly 9 years on, and I don't know that it would be possible to find a reasonable place to rent in Melbourne, Sydney, or even Brisbane for that matter, for under $450, $500. I'm not a renter, so I apologize if I'm sounding like I'm a bit out of the game. The reality in my mind is that when your roof over your head becomes more than 50% of your income, or close to 50% of your income, that's not great. I mean, you've still got to pay your utility bills, petrol, food, and so that doesn't leave much for discretionary spending, which obviously brings pleasure, but or savings, which is really important for the long game. For someone to say that they want to be in a relationship with a man or a woman because they don't need them, to me, I think that's actually quite inspiring. To want to be with someone and not need to rely on them for reason A, B, and C. That's an awesome place to be. And I think that's great for a relationship. For me, I haven't really thought about it from that perspective. I mean, my husband and I got together in 2014, and I probably was not in the best frame of mind to be in a long-term relationship, but things transpired and here we are. It probably wasn't the best time for me because emotionally I was still working through the challenges of having been through a breakup with my ex-husband, who we'd been together for 13 or 14 years. It was nice to have someone there who was there for the sake of being there, because my husband never put pressure on me to try and get over it or whatever, and he never questioned me. I guess he was an emotional support, but I kept a lot of it to myself. I didn't share what I was going through. And so I guess what I'm saying is, for me, I probably didn't need to get into another relationship and probably shouldn't have, but I'm not unhappy that I did, because my husband and I are really happy. So it was a great match. Obviously we got married, but in some ways, looking back, if I were to say I needed anything, I needed someone to help me change my perspective on things. I probably needed more emotional support and counselling and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm curious about why anyone might think that they need to be with someone. I know there's an emotional pull to have companionship and support, and there's the hierarchy of needs, where we need to have a roof over our head and food in our belly and community. Those are fundamental needs. And then the need to feel needed, I guess, maybe fits in there somewhere, which is where this is coming from. Yeah, I'd be curious to know how other people think about relationships, especially like if you're in your 40s and stuff like that. You're in a totally different headspace than if you're in your 20s. First time I got married, I was 19, and so yeah, I was totally in a different headspace to where I am now. I'm a lot more financially secure. I'm a lot more worldly. It changes the dynamic of the relationship and who we're with. If you liked my mindful meanderings, rabbiting on about all sorts of random stuff, please like, share, subscribe. These are very early day thoughts, and so I hope to explore new and different ideas, and maybe it'll help change the way you think, or maybe it'll help me change the way I think. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, that's all for now. See you on the next video.